afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. I hope my screen is still visible. Okay, yes, I can see that. So welcome to March's first session. I say first because we're going to have two sessions every month going forward. And today's special guest, which by the end of this meeting, we will no longer refer to him as special guest, but is someone who's been always there to share his knowledge. And today he's got a very interesting session for us. It's on Fabric IQ, how you can utilize Fabric IQ to make better AI agents. And we have some new interesting developments to let you be aware of. We now are on Fabric community, so we are officially one of the Microsoft Fabric user groups. I'm going to share the link so that you can also join that, which opens us up to a lot of collaborative activities with Microsoft and sometimes some swags and benefits for the entire community members. So I would say even if you are already part of the meetup group, be a member of this. I'll share the link in the chat. And like I hinted, so Alex is becoming now one of the organizing team. He has always been uh, much more experienced in terms of what we can be. He's got a lot of expertise and foresight, and there's a lot of potential that is difficult for just one person to unlock in the group. And I'm so glad that he's now on board to help move us forward and ensure that going forward, these are some of the things that you begin to notice. We will do twice a month schedule. We will be accepting submissions via a formal process on Sessionize. We're going to have a proper community resources repo on GitHub. A lot of you that keep asking, oh, where can I access the recording? Where can I access the presenters material? Now we are going to have that, thanks to him because he's already working on it. And then we will be more active on other channels, LinkedIn, Fabric User Group, Sessionize, and a few more. It's also helping putting structure into our communications. You will notice that we don't have a proper communication structure. So hopefully you will see his influence in how you get communication from the group and some other things. So as a bonus, he's also already, I am not even yet aware of it, but he's already been able to find a way for us to secure exam voucher from Microsoft. So you'll get more details on that later when we get the vouchers and we know we're going to pick who we get it because we're probably gonna get a few, not enough for everybody. And I'm gonna just do this shortly. Like say, he's a professional consultant. He's been in this space for decades, so he's someone who is more like a practitioner who has seen all hands of how a lot of what he works on are being used in different industries and different clients. So he's one of those who enjoys this in depth, and that's why he likes to share his knowledge. So we are lucky to have him. I'm going to stop my session intro now and hand over to him. And so, Alex, over to you. And I'll stop sharing my screen. Thank you. I'll also go off camera. Are you saying anything? Not okay.
Well, I don't know if my camera is live at this point.
Yeah,
I
it
just
is.
cannot check. It is,
Oh,
right?
I see. I see your camera. It's just I don't know when you will share your screen, but yes, we hear you
I'm
now. We
sharing
see.
my screen right now.
Or maybe good. Yes, I see it. We're good to go. So please carry on.
Perfect. Sounds good. Well, thank you, Michael, for very kind words, and thanks everybody for joining us tonight. Uh, I I want to talk tonight about and it's tonight at my time. Obviously, if you're in a different time zone, then good morning or good afternoon or good day to you. Uh, I want to be talking about tonight about the Fabric IQ. If you've been following Microsoft Fabric development, you may remember that the Fabric IQ was first introduced just recently in the at the end of the last year at Microsoft Ignite conference. That's when it was introduced, and it's a new workload in Fabric. It's not a single thing. It consists of many different things. Uh, and specifically, it's also very unique to the data platforms in general. If you ask a direct questions, hey, any other platform may have similar functionality at all? I don't know. I cannot tell you. So that's how new that is. No one else really announced or much promoted it. Now, if you don't mind, can you give me a show of hands who have heard or tried to use the Fabric IQ at this point? Don't be shy. Okay. Well, I'll take it as this is very new, so we'll take it slow. And let me just start from former introduction. It will be very short, I promise you. So Michael already introduced me. I'm a professional consultant. I work in different areas, but my primary professional area at this point is Microsoft Fabric. That's why when you hear me talking, most likely I will be talking about Microsoft Fabric. And but feel free to bring up questions about something different, but hopefully related. What are today goals? Today goals are three. I identify three different goals. Now, first, I want everyone to understand uh, why we need to talk about the Fabric IQ, because it's directly related with a development of the artificial intelligence, and specifically in a feature that was part of the Microsoft Fabric from quite long ago, which is called the Microsoft Fabric Data Agent, right? There are issues when we are trying to use this agent, and we'll talk about it. So the second goal is um, what is specifically the Fabric IQ, how it's designed, what it consists of, what parts are in there, and how you actually operate with Fabric IQ, how you configure it and make it work for you. So, and the third one, we're not just discussing this in theory, because you can read, I'm pretty sure, and you can go to Microsoft Learn and read it all yourself. So I'm going to be showing you all this live in Microsoft Fabric, and we will try and see how it works. So you leave our tonight meeting with a little bit of a practical experience. At least you're not starting from the clean slate from this point on. Okay, now let's just jump into it. We don't have a lot of time. It's only an hour. So what is the problem that we may have when we try to use AI agents in Fabric? Well, it's pretty clear, right? We can have the untrusted answers there that we wouldn't like. Now, how does it look? Well, essentially, we're data professionals, data engineers, so we build databases, right? And databases, they may look very different in different scenarios. Can be anything, like whatever you're working with. This could be transactional databases or lake houses or warehouses. It doesn't matter, right? But now, if anyone can honestly say that every database that we build it looks human friendly, I would doubt so, because and this is what I'm showing you on the screen right now. That could be anything. Like from my recent experience, I was working with a Fabric project that should analyze the accounting system. The column names and the table names are so cryptic, it's impossible to understand what they mean, like literally impossible. If there were no documentation, it would not be impossible. Now, that automatically gives us what? We are smart humans, right? But agents are not. Well, they can only operate inside the context that they're given. Now, if you give them the context like what I show on the screen, what's going to happen, right? Nothing. Rate is good, data is good, but answers are not. because agent will be completely confused with not understanding what's going on in this data set. And specifically, we are concerned about the business meaning because we know that behind every data set is the business meaning, but agent is a machine. They don't know. So, for example, the column named with very cryptic abbreviations, they don't mean anything in terms of the human language. That's where the agent models operate with. They operate in the human language space, right? Uh, However, also if even if we name the tables or columns more or less reasonably, do we name them always consistently? Not necessarily, right? So it may happen that the consistency is not there, and obviously that this will result in hallucinations and incorrect or unreliable answers and eventually lost of trust. Why? Because when you repeatedly get the answers that are wrong or don't make much sense, why would you use such a technology? You probably wouldn't. Now let's look at this as the problem. Now let's look at how Microsoft Fabric uh, answers to this problem. So we have data, right? This data lives on OneLake. And this has all kinds of data. And as I said, these are warehouses, these are lake houses, these are event houses, any kind of data that files that Fabric can store, this is all on OneLake. Uh, we can access that data directly from the AI agent, but as we just discussed, we may not want to. So instead, what we want to do, we want to put on top of the data something that has this name, ontology. So ontology is the new item in Fabric that creates a semantically aware layer on top of data that Fabric agents now can use as the data source. And that will allow us to solve uh, initial problem with the unknown or cryptic data structure. Uh, so essentially what that means is that using ontology brings intelligence to the data agents by providing essential semantic information about business concepts and business rules and human level information about this data. And this is the answer of Microsoft Fabric. And ontology is the key component of the Fabric IQ. Now, we probably are familiar with using IQ in the context of the uh, indicator of some kind of intelligence, and that's exactly what that name uh, is here to bring us, like a hope and a strategy on top of that, how to make our data more intelligent and more accessible using human languages. From this point of view, let's just look at specifically what the ontology is. Uh, if you don't mind, just give me again a show of hands who has experience in business level data modeling. Don't be shy. Yeah, I see Michael and I see Balakumar. I see Raul. Yep, we have people in the audience who appreciate what that means and may understand. Now, what I'm showing you on the screen here, we will see it live on Fabric. Right? This is how the ontology maps, ontology user interface actually looks like. We will see it in a few minutes, very soon. So we define different entities And in this particular case, what I'm showing on the screen, you see I have the product entity, I have the store entity, I have the seller entity. And you might see that it's not just the entity. First of all, they don't have the cryptic names. And they make sense from the human language point of view, even if you're not aware of what we're talking about. But if anyone asks you, hey, what a product is, like you probably can try and explain what that means. The same with the store, like it's the place where you can buy, for example, a product. And the sale event is probably just something that is happening in the store uh, related to buying the product. So it's relatively easy concept that can be explained in the human language. And that's what we do in the ontology. We also define the relationships here. For example, you see that store runs the sales event and the products are sold in during the sales event. So this is the kind of thing that we will be looking at. So let's just go with a few definitions here. Ontology is a structured knowledge graph of your business domain. It's also a known term. It's a known term for describing a formalized way of building the business data models, but in the Fabric context, it's slightly different. It's more of a technology. It's more of a specific tool versus methodology, as it was stated originally. Now, what we do, we first define entities, and you will see, I already list them here on the screen, but we will see them live. Then we define the relationship and we connect entities together. These simple operations immediately create the meaningful context for anyone who is looking at it. Then we define properties and rules for the specific entities. For example, in a sales event, we may want to define something like a revenue. For example, in the store, we may want to define a location. In the product, we may want to define additional attributes like the category or type or something like this. And finally, what we do with the ontology so it becomes operational, like we have to link it to the data, to the live data. But now we have a choice. We create a mapping. So regardless of how cryptic or complex our table data structures can be, we're mapping specific properties that we defined for each entity into particular columns in our data sources. What's most exciting is that you don't need to stick to a single table per the entity. You can mix and match, and we'll see that live as well. Now, what happens next is let's see if we can, by doing this, help our unhappy agent that cannot get a correct answer because it doesn't understand what's happening in the data. If we can help doing that, and it's easy for me to say so, right? I made it happy right now. But you see that the major difference on the slides here is that I replaced the cryptic names with something more meaningful, and that allowed the large language model, the one that powers our a data agent in Fabric, that allowed this model to find the correct answer. And we will see it as well. That's what happens when we use Fabric IQ. So for the same question, now we enable our data foundation to get the correct answer. And these are just simple technical explanations for why it happens, but you can easily place yourself in the shoes of a data agent. Being an engineer, I'm pretty sure you've been so many times in the same situation in the room when someone opens up the database and you're looking at it and you're so confused because you cannot make much sense of the naming conventions, of the abbreviations, of whatever is going on in this database. So it's hard to even understand where to start from to get any data answers. Now, this is about the theory, right? I'm almost done. I want to show you what we will be doing tonight in terms of the demo. First disclaimer, right? I did not create my own data set for that. So there is an official IQ tutorial on Microsoft Learn, and you can go there and you can try and use it yourself. And you should be able to get exactly the same results that I will be showing you. So for simplicity's sake, also due to the time constraint, I use the data set. It consists of two data sources. We have the lake house and we have the event house. Now, in the lake house, we have data that is more or less static. There is, of course, some dynamic data that change over time, but most of the time, most of the data doesn't change as much. However, there's the additional data set, which we call a time series. It's a KQL database that belongs to the event house. And in this particular scenario, we will be monitoring some parameters of some equipment that those stores use for their products. And both of these data sources will be a foundation for the sales ontology object that I will create. I already created in Fabric that I will show you how it's configured. And it will become it will become the data foundation, the ontology. We will not be connecting those data sources directly to our agent, though I'll show you the difference. I have 3 different agents already pre-configured. So we will use the sales ontology as the data foundation for our data agent. And we will try and explore what and how they will be using these data sources. So the experiment that I will be running with you is as we will try and understand the differences between how we can configure the AI agents in Microsoft Fabric using different data sources and see what kind of differences we can try and explore during this experiment. Now, there's one thing that I put on this slide. It's called the operations agent. It's a new kind of agent. It's part of the Fabric IQ, so that I need to mention it because it's part of the Fabric IQ. But we won't be, it's outside of scope for tonight's demo. We may bring this up later, in a separate presentation if we have time for our meetings, and maybe I have time for another presentation. I know I already occupied too much space. Now, so far, for the last 3 months, I was the sole speaker, but now that we'll be running these events more frequently, there will be way more speakers in our group. And so no operations agent tonight. So don't be mad about it, but the one key takeaway here is that the same data source can be used with multiple different agents. And that's one of the key principles in Microsoft Fabric. Have one data, use it many times. And that's practically it for my theory. I don't know, Michael, do you want to maybe spend a minute in case there are questions related to that, or we just jump into the Fabric immediately and we don't, and all the questions will be after? What do you think?
I think questions at the end work better. So they kind of allow you to adjust to the number of questions.
Sounds good. All right. Yeah, talking about questions, let's just remember, right? You write your questions in the chat, so we can go through them and answer them when we're done with our main content. Sounds good? Don't be shy. Write questions as much as you like. Should be fine. All right. So let's jump into the fabric. Now, you see, I have what I have here. I have two different workspaces. I have the IQ demo workspace, and I have agents demo workspace, and we will work one with in these workspaces one by one. So we start from the IQ demo. IQ demo contains our data sources and the ontology. So essentially all our data sources at this point, three of them, the lake house, the telemetry event house, and the ontology itself, they're data sources. So they all belong to the same workspace. If you're not familiar with what's called the lineage view, just a small note for yourself. You see we have in this top right corner, we have two icons.
I think Alex is having a network glitch. Or you all can hear him, just to be sure it's not the other way around.
Yeah, it's got frozen.
Okay.
I think it's because
Okay. Thanks for confirming. So I would let's see if I can notify him. Or please put in your questions in the chat. Also, I'm using the opportunity to share the new Fabric user group. Maybe you're not familiar with the concept of the Fabric user group. It's the official way Microsoft wants to pass any special benefits to community. So right now, in fact, we are able to get some exam vouchers, and it's because we are now officially a Fabric user group. It took us about I think since December we were working on it because Microsoft has got a very elaborate process for approving, would they, in fact, they want to be sure that people are not like creating duplicates of groups. So it's something that you should take advantage of because when they share access to resources, vouchers, insider uh, access to some tools that might not be available to the general public, we are front in line. Anything related to Fabric community groups are front in line. Like they tell us directly, and we share to the members directly. And they kind of want us to keep benefits to the members, not just give random public members. So it means the communications will be on the group mostly for those kind of members only benefits. So make sure you join. I would say even if it's just for the sake of being aware of any free things from Microsoft, insider knowledge and resources, and most of the swags will be digital ones anyway. But if we get in-person events approved, they even sponsor sometimes, which means, if we can only host 20 people, for sure we're going to want to prioritize people who are members of the group. Let me try to message Alex while I'm speaking, but just in case if you see me looking distracted, it's because I'm multitasking. And this is also an opportunity for you to put in your questions. I know some of you have reached out to us to say, you want to, maybe I could share my screen and show you. You want to speak. If I if I show you how many sessions we've the lineup of speakers and how many sessions we've gotten now, you will probably, ask us to do maybe weekly sessions because we've got a lot of amazing presenters across the globe, in Germany, US. In fact, I have more connections here in Canada, but I tell you, the Okay, let's say I've got equal, like the same number of people I'm connected to in the US who are like MVPs, who are, uh, really high-ranking professionals within their knowledge space, and I reach out to everybody equally. I got a lot of responses more from those outside of Canada, and by the time those in within Canada started replying to me, I was like, sorry, you're not going to be in December or next year because you know what they say, the things that is right close to you, sometimes you don't see them as very valuable as the one that is far away. So I guess those in UK, in Germany, saw the group as more valuable to quickly submit to. But what I'm just trying to make clear is that the diversity of sessions and speakers, you're going to notice it going forward. So we now have sessions submitted to us. I'm typing to us via Sessionize. So if you're interested, you can also submit. Just indicate that you're a group member, so that way we can prioritize review of your session. So when we say review, we're essentially trying to have a mix of topics so that we don't keep doing the same technology area, and we also want to also have a mix of speakers. So far, we've been having more of a men guys speaking to us. So we are hoping to have a lady come present towards the end of this month. I'm supposed to do an interview. More like Alex is helping us put a structure in. So it's what come up with this approach where we need to kind of also touch base with the presenters before we bring them in front of you, which I have not been doing. So if we do that and that no red flags pop up, then for sure we're gonna have one of our. I think she will be our first. I think so. We've not had a lady presenter so far. She will be our first, and those are some of the things we are watching out for to ensure that we don't just keep hearing the same thing from the same set of people. I might have to call Alex. This is unusual of him. Maybe he's not aware. I'll mute myself so that
I can't hear you. Is that? I'm sorry.
Oh, you are hearing what I was saying on the call?
No, you were muting. It looked like you were
Oh,
having
okay.
laughing and stuff, and I wasn't hearing it.
Oh, it's deliberate because I was calling Alex,
Yeah.
and I
Oh,
didn't want
okay.
you
Sorry.
guys
I'm
to
sorry.
get distracted. But it's good that you brought it up. That means you noticed my mouth was moving, but nothing was coming out the speakers.
Okay.
Thanks. So
Okay. Sorry to bother you.
he's rejoining. He said his laptop rebooted, so that's why taking him that long to rejoin. So he's any moment from now, I'm going to see him back in the session, and he will take over again the screen share. And let me see. I think I've got one more link to share. Let me quickly. I told him that I'm using the opportunity to do all the announcements that we kind of shortened. So we also, great, I remember, we also now have a LinkedIn group. Alex is
Yes,
the one with more of the ideas on how, okay.
yeah.
So I'm going to share the link, and then, if you can also follow the LinkedIn group, because I think the way Alex has explained it, you will be able to get more updates via that faster than Meetup. And I think also too, now I remember, Teams can be problematic. So we are also thinking of how to allow people to be able to participate in the webinar without necessarily joining Teams. So I think that's even one of the main advantages. I think with the LinkedIn group, you can. Yeah, I'll get it out. It's showing me the admin link, but I don't want you to have the admin link because that will not open. Great, I found the member link. So with the LinkedIn, if we do it the way he's explaining it, it means, more options of how you can join. You could just like see us as a YouTube event, as a LinkedIn event, and then you don't have to log in from your phone or from your tablet. You just, same LinkedIn you already signed up to. You will just click on the event and participate and not have to, Teams is not, I think it's not really built for regular users. It's built more to satisfy company bureaucracies and to make companies feel like they have full control over what their staff do, not so much to make life easy for people who want to just join an event and enjoy the event. So I'm watching to see. Oh, Alex, you're back. Yes, please take over
Yes,
the
I'm
screen.
back. Yes, I'm back.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I was just filling in for you. Go backstage now.
Right. Um, everyone, hope you hear me. I'm sorry for that issue that happens once in a while. Totally not intended. My laptop, for some reason, decided to reboot. I don't know why. Hopefully, it was able to. So we're back into our Fabric screen here. And let's start from individual data sources. We just look at them. So we have the lake house here. We have different tables. We only have, the model is really simple for this one. So we have our products, and you can see right here in the preview that essentially we're in the business of the ice cream. We sell ice cream on different places. Now, where do we sell them? We sell them in stores. And we have stores in Paris, Berlin, Amsterdam, all around Europe, with the locations, which does matter really at this point. Now, when we sell, what happens is that we sell specific number of units for each product, and we incur the revenue. So that's our data, right? But where we store the ice cream and the freezers. So each store operates one or more freezers. We can sort of read that in the freezer ID here, like for example, Paris 01, Berlin 02, Amsterdam, Paris 02. Like we have different type of fridges, and we have one specific value that is important, which is the minimal safe temperature. If we keep it with a different temperature, then the ice cream won't survive. We don't want that, right? So that's one. The next data source is our KQL database. Who is familiar with the KQL database? Anybody has experience working with time series in Fabric? Yep. Michael. Anybody else? Nope. So it's a new one for everyone, which is good. We're learning here. We want to learn. So think of it as just a regular database that have tables. And each table has columns. So if I click on it, I will show you that I have the freezer telemetry table that has these columns, like for example, timestamp, store ID, freeze ID, temperature, so far, so on. So the icons before the column name, there should be obvious. The sharp icon here or hashtag item, it means that it's a number. And the text obviously means that this is a text field, and the timestamp means that it's a date time field. Now, why we're using this specifically is because this type of database is optimized for the time series. I'll show you what that means in a second. You see this colorful bars here? These were the ingestions. And I can show you how that thing looks. We have a preview. Like when we get the new data, because these are all sensors, right? The temperature sensor of the freezer, the humidity sensor of the freezer, the door sensor. So when we have a new reading from the sensor, it comes with a date time stamp. Let me sort this descending. So we have the latest on top, right? So we have that these things are changing. they are exactly the same, but because they come with the timestamp, that creates a time series. So we can view that as a chart, right? And we also have the ingestion type. I have a little bit of piece of code here, which is called a KQL query. I can add more data. I have this piece of code. I can add more data into the database at any point of time just to make it a little bit more interesting. I just ran it, and we now ingested that thing. If I go back to the database, you will see that right now I have, again, I want to sort it by the time descending, and I have for today, right now, at 41 minutes, right now it's 44, but I have at 41 minutes the new records that are just came in with the new readings. So this is our data source. This is secondary data source. Now let's go to our ontology. We open it, and the very first thing that we see here is we see our entity types. Now, if I wanted to do anything, add anything new, because my model expands, because I introduced the new elements in my business model for my business, I can do it right here. So I just click add entity type, and I can add it. But let's explore what we already have. We have a product. What it has is when we define the entity, we say its name, and it can be changed later if you'd like to. And we define the properties. And for the product, we decided to go with exactly the same properties that we had in the Lakehouse table, but we could have gone with a different set of properties. At this point, we have the brand name, the category, product ID, product name, subcategory. What's important here is that you see that each property has a defined data source, and it has a type static. What that means is that we have a binding that we can explore, and you will see what it means. So when I bind my entity type into the data, I need to select the data source. In this case, I already selected my Lakehouse in this workspace, and I can see all the tables are available. I know that for the product name, I want to use this table. And just like this, I can choose a specific column for, so this column here on the right, these are my property names. Now, if I define the different property names, for example, instead of the product name, I would have just the name, I would still be able to map it correctly to my data source by using a specific column in my data source that I'm binding to, right? So that's how it works. Now, the next thing that we have here is, you see, we have for, if we click on each and every entity, we will see that all of them, they have properties, and they're all bound. And most of them, they're bound to only the Lakehouse, and they have the property type of static. However, if we look at the freezer, we will find a very interesting difference here, that what happens here is that we have two types of binding, and you see we have the two types of property types. We have the static property types, and we have the time series property types. Why? Because if we edit bindings here, if we switch to the bindings, you will see that we have two different data sources. One data source is our Lakehouse, and it provides the static properties, while another data source is our event house, our KQL database, that provides the time series properties. And this is the big difference comparing to existing semantic models. You know, in Fabric, if anyone is familiar with, I know Michael is, with Power BI, the data source for the reports is the semantic model, right? And the semantic model is a separate item in Fabric, and you can create it. But what can you bring into it? Only static data. You can bring tables from lake houses or warehouses, but you cannot bind different types of data into the semantic model. But here in the ontology, we absolutely can do this. We bring different type of data sources right into the same model. Now, what else we see here on this thing? We have a relationship, right? Let's see what it means, that relationship. This relationship specifically is defined this way. So it goes from the freezer, it goes from the store to the freezer. And if we were to read it using our normal, or write it using our normal human language, we would say that store operates a freezer, or it operates multiple freezers. But that's the relationship. It doesn't matter how many freezers we have, the relationship is the same. There is a store, it has the freezers, it operates the freezers because that's where we store the products. So when we define it, we give it a name. Interface is a little bit confusing. I found that slightly confusing, right? But essentially, you can just type in here. For example, I wanted to rename it, and I could just use this. So even though it's a drop-down list, there is no selection choice. You just type it here. It's just the UI. I don't know why. So engineering team that created ontology, they went with this interface. But this is less important. It has to have a meaning. So we want to name the relationship meaningfully. So for example, if I had a customer entity, we would say that the customers buy products, right? Or we would say customers visit stores, or we would say customers attend sales events, something like this. So we want the name for the relationship to be meaningful, so we can construct a normal human language phrase that explains what's going on in here. And we will see it very soon in the agent. I have to choose the data, right? Obviously, because now the trick here is this: even though the relationship starts from the store side, and you can see that's how the arrow goes from the store into the freezer. But when I choose the source data, we can read it, right? This is the table that defines a relationship that works for both entities. Now, if we were looking at the table, we don't need to change it, right? So if we were looking at the table here, you would notice that it comes with the freezer ID and the store ID. Now, if we were looking at the table of the stores, you would notice that it only has the store ID. So the store table cannot define the relationship. Only the freezer table can define the relationship in this case. That's exactly why we select the freezer table and the relationship for the relationship definition. And then we say, hey, for this store ID, we connect it with the freezer ID. So that's how we define the relationship in the ontology. Now, all this work done for what? So that's the main question, right? For example, but it's good. We define that. We see the nice picture here. I can bring it, make it larger, right? I can use my keyboard and look at it, and maybe I can, take the screenshot and put it into some documentation. That's all good. But where's the data? It is there. We have the binding. Can we see it? Absolutely. There's a button for that. We click Entity Type Overview. So we just click on it. And what we see is various type of the tiles here. This is a preview. So let's take a quick look. What's going on in here? We have a relationship graph, and it shows us clearly that how we define the relationship, it goes this way. A store, it operates the freezers, but also it runs the sales events, right? Now, what kind of stores do we have? We have these three different stores. This is the preview, and you can see this. I have last 30 days for 1 hour preview. And we can go further and we can see that we also have cities and we operate in different cities and they belong to different regions. This is all about a specific store entity. And we have the data preview. So if I had more data, then I would be able to choose a different time range here and see different results of this data preview. And we can see exactly the same thing. We choose a different type and we decide to do the entity preview. We will see things related to specific entities. Now, one very important difference is this. If I click on the freezer, you remember that we have two different types of properties, data bound to these properties, right? Let's see what's going on in here. Look at this. So we have static data because we have different models of the fridges. We have the configuration data, which is also static. And we can say that, hey, we operate this in the stores and we have a preview of static data, but we also have a preview of the dynamic data that we receive from the sensors. For example, if I choose this specific freezer temperature, I can see what was happening in the last hour, and I can tell you that that's exactly the data that I added here by the script. That's what we're looking at right here in this preview. This is, though, all looks nice and picturesque and whatnot, but the more important thing is slightly different. Let me just do this. So I go to the entity, to the sales event, and I open okay, probably I'll just expand it right like this. So where we are in the graph query builder. So let me just bring everything into here. And I'll try to make it look a little bit better. And what happens here is that we can actually query the entire set of data by just doing this. So what happens here, we're looking at the graph that represents our ontology. We can pick any node. We will see what's connected to it. We know that during this specific sale event, we know that it was run in Paris in the Lakeshore retail store, and we sold. I don't see the products for some reason here. I expect to see the products. Let me run the query again. Maybe I didn't bring the products. I brought the products. Oh, products are below. Okay, so the product is called, where's the name? Product. Lakeshore. Oh, here.
Strawberry.
Yeah. So the product name is this, and if we just choose it here, we will see that in this specific situation, we sold it here, but we can traverse that, and we can see that we're also going through different types of. If we want to ask very specific questions, we have a query builder for that, which is this. So, but to be productive, what I want to do is I need to add filters here. For example, I want to see only the products of the category. What kind of categories do I have? For example, survey. So I will say that I want to see the category equal this. And let me run this query again. And it will produce a more refined result. And this is a demo. Like, I'm not going to show you. Unfortunately, we are closing on the hour. My fault. I'm willing to stay longer. If you guys want to stay longer, that's fine with me, because I want to show you the most interesting part. So far, we just explored the data that we're dealing with. Okay. Now let's go into our agents. So this is a different workspace. This is the agents demo. And I must tell you, I must warn you, if you want to replicate that demo yourself, you have to make sure that for this workspace, you are running a commercial Fabric capacity. At this point, I'm running F2 because agents don't work. Any AI features in Fabric don't work on trial capacities. So you have to spend money to basically run this functionality. Right now, I have 4 different agents, but as I claimed before, we're not going to be looking at the operations agents, this guy, out of scope for tonight. We have 3 different agents. The one that I call a simple agent, it's a data, all of them are data agents. Now let's start and look at them very quickly. And essentially what's happening here is this. When I configure the agent, I give it the data source, and this data source is connected to the lake house. So that's the data that we see, right? Now, why I call this a simple agent, because we also need to give this agent the instructions. So that's my instruction is very simple. So I'm saying you're a data assistant for Lakeshore Retail. This is an ice cream retailer, and you can answer this question, right? This is a very simple instruction. So I didn't give any specific information about what the data source is and what not. Now, this is an operational thing. So we can ask a question. We can say, what are our top products? And we will see that the model will be able to understand that question without additional semantical context, because this is very simple, because it's able to match the table name. It's doing the analysis, right? And it's trying to do this thing, and it's saying, hey, this worked. So because it was able to infer from the table name that there is the product table that has these properties, which are very clearly named, right? And it can refer to the product name. Now, how did it choose it? Like, we can ask the continuation, obviously. There's no magic in it, you know? We can how did you select this product? And we will get a quite concise answer here, because it's based on the sales data. That's what it's telling us, right? That is generated the highest total revenue. Now, where do we get the? See, we have the sales table and we have the column, the revenue. That's how it gave us this. So what are other agents that I have here? The next one, I have the Lakehouse agent. This is a little bit more complicated configurations. It uses 2 different data sources It uses both the lake house and the telemetry event house, and it has more complicated instructions. For example, right? I put information here that says that this agent does have access to the real-time freezer telemetry, right? So what I can ask this agent that I couldn't ask the previous one, I could have asked, right? If you want to see, I could have asked that, can you tell me, oops, how freezers operate in the stores? This is a very vague question, and this is intentionally the vague question, but it's important to understand that it will try and use this data source and try to infer anything, and it will tell you that, look, the one thing that I know, that each store has at least one freezer, right? And then there are different models, and we have, for example, these models here and there, and they have a safe temperature, right? So I can ask, now let's go to the lake house agent here, and let's be a little bit deeper on that. So let's say, can I see the latest recorded temperatures for all freezers? Now, the important thing here is this. If I ask the same question to my simple agent, it would say that it has no data. We can go there and ask, but here we will see that there's an answer. Right now, if we look at how it was accomplished, this task, we immediately see that the analysis was done against this specific KQL database, and this is how my question was interpreted, right? So show the most recent temperature recorded for each freezer, which include freezer ID, store ID, temperature, and timestamp. And this is the KQL query, and that's what we see. So essentially, we understand that this agent can answer about two different types of data, especially when we configure in the setup specific data instructions, like for this data and for this data. We have two different sets of data instructions, so we can make this agent quite knowledgeable. Now, let's go a little bit deeper, because this is all data, right? And we understand that any data engineer can just run a SQL query or a KQL query against the known table structure and get exactly the same answers. We don't really need agents for that. We may want to just because we're lazy, but it's not the necessity. However, if there is a business person that doesn't really know what databases to look into and may not even have access to those databases, or may not even understand what kind of data we're dealing with here, then obviously it could be troublesome at this point. And in this case, the questions that probably I will be asking if I was the business person, right? So that would be something different. Like, for example, I can ask, are our fridges our fridges operating at the safe temperatures? Let's see where this one leads us, because this requires better understanding of what specifically. well, if I ask you, right, we have the failed answer. But if I ask any one of you, like for example, exactly the same question, how would you think to answer it? You would think it's obvious. Look, in the lake house, for every fridge, we have the minimum slave temperature, right? So, and we know that we recorded the temperatures from this fridge, so we can check what is the current temperature of the fridge, and we can compare it with the minimal safe temperature from our lake house. But that requires cross join. So first of all, we need to understand that these two data sources are related. But there is no such a context on this. There are just two data sources, right? So it says something about the more technical issue. We can just take a look at it. So what it's doing, it's looking into the lake house, right? And it's trying to join with the freezer telemetry. So it kind of understands that, but the query that it constructs is very wrong. It doesn't even show us the query. We cannot even look at what kind of query we're dealing with in here, but obviously it produces the error because this specific AI model, it cannot properly do this without the specific context. Now, let's do this. Let's switch to our ontology agent. And this is a little bit of, you will be here for a little bit of a mini shock, okay? Let me put it this way. I'm not trying to build any thriller sense here, but first of all, look, we don't have any data instruction in the setup. We only have the agent instruction. So obviously the sales ontology used here as a data source, it doesn't require data instruction. And in the agent instructions, it's very short and simple. So I said, look, I have the entities here, and that's it. Well, this one is not necessary. It's a little bit of experiment from my side. Maybe we'll talk about it a little bit later in the question sections. But let me ask this. Explain what business we are looking at. So I'm not even asking about the data yet, right? I'm looking at the model, and I don't know what's going on there because I want to understand what I'm looking at, right? And it appears that we're looking at a business that involves retail stores selling products, possibly with a focus on the products that require refrigeration or freezer, right? We're already seeing that there is some, in summary, we're already seeing that there is a semantical understanding of what this model represents, regardless of how simple that is. So next, what we can ask is, what, and you tell me about say product safety procedures here. Again, I'm not talking about data. So we're not even looking at the data. We're only looking at the model at this point. But it's already obvious to the model that is analyzing that ontology. Well, let's wait. Like a disclaimer, right? This is a preview. So I've personally, when I was preparing this demo, it worked. I experienced a number of issues during my preparation, and some of the things that I wanted to show you, I wasn't able to complete. I don't know if they would be run right now or not, but we're going step by step. It says that there was a technical issue retrieving this information. However, based on the data structure alone, just on a model, right, there are some insights that we can look at. So there is a freezing monitoring. So the business tracks freezing temperature. Now there is a temperature control because we want to ensure that we keep it inside the safe limits, right? And there is a safety standard, minimum safe temperature. So it's clearly a semantical context. Now, what kind of issue we've been dealing with at this point? Let's take a quick look. Yeah, that's unfortunately, it's exactly the same issue that I was seeing previously. I am working with the Microsoft RTI team. That's the team that is responsible for ontology development. I posted a message on the community forum for them with the detailed explanation of what's going on. They will be responding. Last time it helped. When I was preparing that thing, I had previously experienced another problem. It was solved in one day after I posted the specific explanation. Failed to translate NL query to ontology query. I can tell you what it means specifically. NL stands for natural language, and ontology query, obviously it's a graph query. So there is a component behind the scene that takes my question here, and it wants to build the data query that operates against the graph. That graph that we've seen here, that's that graph that it operates against when it's retrieving data. And as you have noticed before, and I showed you that the graph itself has access to the real-time information. I can experiment with way more questions here, but we're already out of time. So I just want to ask Michael if we want to proceed maybe to the questions at this point, having over time, or if we want to look at something else at this point.
Okay, let me throw it to the house. What do you want? Do you want him to attempt to show other things you had planned to show, or you've got questions? And I think if you have questions, for sure, you should put in the chat, and then it will not be a case of just questions only, or some of you still want to see what's possible, what's unique about going the ontology route. Can you put in the chat your preference? Or start asking your questions. For sure, I think questions, because we promised to answer questions, we can't just at the end say no more to questions, but it's just a case of, are you also open to seeing more? Okay, I think you can carry on. I'll be monitoring the chat. If there's any question within the next 3 minutes, I'll mention them to you while we wait for what the general consensus is regarding their preference.
Right. Well, see, because I have these issues with the ontology not being able to retrieve the data directly from the database, I was hoping that that could have been resolved. Obviously, it's not.
I know.
Right. But I can continue playing with this model in a slightly different way, right? So I can put the disclaimer here and say, hey, don't look at the data, right? Just tell me what you can tell from the model alone. And one of the complex questions that I can ask, it's related to the whole understanding of how the business operates. Without looking at the data, how would you have how would you tried answering the question if sales in any stores were affected by the time when freezers had their doors open. It's a very complicated question, right? Let me just read it again. Without looking at the data, how would you try answering? How would you have tried? Okay, how would you have tried answering the question if sales in any stores were affected by the time when the freezer had their doors open? Okay, let's see what we can extract from this model alone without looking at the data. We can have a conversation about the model even without the direct access of the data. So this is sort of a little bit of a moral life situation. Sometimes you can lose access to the data directly, or you may have a data source that is not populated yet with the actual data, but you would still be able to keep a conversation with the model. Like what? Okay, Michael, if you type it, did you type it? Let me.
But mine is not the first. Gregory's question came first. I'm like, let me also
Okay, no
squeeze in
problem.
one. So we have
I'm
two
looking
now.
at the chat. Okay.
Oh, okay, good. Go on, please.
Any questions? Gregory, how security is managed? Can an agent be limited to what data it can see? Is there a protection from prompt injections? Okay. This is a serious question, and it absolutely is important to understand that. But let's start from the beginning. So agent needs to have a data source. Like when I add the data source, let's just take this one, right? So when I add the data source, I can actually add more data to it, and I can show you. For example, I have another lake house. Let's just take a look at it. Right? Say it comes without selected data initially. Like there is nothing and selected. So I have to do this. Let me just take a look, right? So I can choose specific columns, the ones that I choose to let this agent explore. That's one level of controlling access. The next level of controlling access is this. So for as long, so the agent, it can operate in multiple ways. It operates in inside the fabric in a test mode, and here we use this chat. Right now, what's going to happen here is every single time when you ask a question about data from the agent, it will run in the context of the user who is asking that question. If I publish that agent and expose it to the Copilot in Microsoft 365, or for example in Teams, a user that asks that the agent will become an account there that you can open a chat with, and you can start typing in there. But when you ask the questions, it will operate in the security context of the user. So if the user doesn't have access to the data, then the agent will not be able to get access to it, and the answer will be roughly the same. So I don't have access to this data. Like ask something else. So that's one part. Second part is there is the agent infrastructure here. Now, agent is published with the managed identity, and we can control access of this agent on the database level with using the row level security or column level security. So that's the secondary part of it. I see that Michael, like that would be a question to Gregory.
Yeah.
Do you think that this is enough? What I answered. Now about the prompt injections, like you need to have anybody who I don't really understand how you can implement that specifically, because you need to have access to the agent's API endpoint where you can inject the prompt. But even if you did, assuming that you did, like the agent would still require authenticated user context. If the prompt is not coming with the authenticated user context, then there will be no data access. This is not specifically a security that comes with the agents. It's a security that comes with Fabric platform itself. It's on the much deeper level. It's on the OneLake level, but that's not a topic here. There's specifically a security configuration for OneLake catalog, but this is not the topic of our tonight's conversation. So I hope that I answered a little bit about the agents. Let's just go to the next question. Do we have more questions? How do we prevent agent from hallucinating if it can supply answers that aren't query outputs, right? Well, that's a good observation, because I said, look, we want to be grounded, right? And essentially we want to have data. But what happens here is this. So if agent cannot have access to data, it cannot answer about data. So you will never receive, there will be no data hallucination. But if you're afraid about it, right, you can always go here and you can add the additional instruction, something like this. If there is no access, I may have such an instruction actually in the Lakehouse agent. Let's see what I have in here. In the agent instruction, no, I don't specifically say don't hallucinate, but it's totally allowed. Absolutely. So you are allowed to add into instruction whatever you want to this agent to behave. You just simply say no data, no answer. You just answer. I can tell it, for example, right here, and I can show you simple agent like right here. You cannot answer questions about freezer telemetry because like this, and it immediately goes live. Now I can decline, I just say explicitly, decline to answer questions about freezer telemetry. So we give instructions for the reason, and agents follow those instructions by a rule. So that's the
Awesome.
rule, right? So now the agent cannot cross this border. I see Raul just commented that we need to have proper guardrails in agent instructions to prevent hallucination. Absolutely. Like I have a little bit of experience with using AI working with data and with code. For the data, I don't know if you guys remember, if any of you remember, but I have an open source project for the MCP server that can connect to Microsoft Fabric data sources and answer data questions there. So it comes, the MCP server enforces specific set of instructions every single time to the agent. And when you code stuff, you absolutely have to follow. This is my at this point #1 methodology that I follow, and I actively advocate for it. It's called the spec-driven development. One example you may have heard of is GitHub Spec Kit that allows you to create a full set of the guardrails for the agent to operate within. And once you set them properly, agents do not cross those boundaries. That's a fact. They are designed to respect those boundaries and never cross them. Well, at this point, I suppose we don't have any more questions, and I apologize for the demo was cut short. Totally my fault, but unpredictable. But hope that was useful anyways. Let me finish this with a presentation. Last slide, so we can sort of finish on the note about the key takeaways from this. Fabric IQ is a new data source. It's a new semantic data layer on top of the raw data that enables us to provide more context on top of the raw data that can be used by workloads like AI agents. We have seen a couple of examples that without the context, some of the questions, well, I showed you very simple model. Believe me, if it was really complicated, and I intend to continue working on this demo and add more complicated data into it for the next sort of round of this presentation, then there will be real issues. Today we only just saw very brief samples of that agents are not very reliable when there is no well understood context. And how Microsoft envisions this and how Fabric will be delivering that in the production environment is that the ontology will supply the data agent with additional semantical business level context that will increase the reliability and trustworthiness of the data agent usage in the real world environments. So these are the key takeaways that I just wanted to share with you. And for the time being, that's it. Michael, back to you.
Great. Thank you very, very much. And I like that, this is cutting edge. Even looking at the documentation from Microsoft, they say they have to put it up there that this is preview. And so it makes a lot of sense that, there's a lot of flux that you are even the one pointing them out to Microsoft that some things that are not meant to happen are happening. But I like the fact that we were able to see the problem that we would have with the traditional agent. You asked the question about how many stores are running at safe temperature. And even though you could see minimum temperature, safe temperature, say a column, and he was saying that he could see it when you expanded. He still couldn't figure out that, using natural language to kind of place it that, oh, this should translate to what I should use to figure that out. And that for me was like, yeah, I see a problem with if when I use my Fabric data agent and I use the traditional agents within Fabric, I have seen that problem before. So I'm like, yeah, finally a way, even if it's still in kind of in the works, but at least they have now given us a way that is not so hacky. It's the way you should, the instruction you gave, you didn't even give as much instruction compared to the traditional one. So thank you very, very much. For me, that's one. I know you didn't put it there as a takeaway, but for me, that's one practical takeaway that I got, the fact that I could experience something that the traditional agent could not fix, and this was going to fix it and make it, something that the business user can just ask away questions, and you as the developer don't have to layer all kinds of instructions to kind of figure out what they might say and say, when they say this, it means this or that words.
Well,
So
yeah, so I just wanted to add to this. This is an alternative thing, right? So AI agents, they're very new, but they provide the alternative way for all other different types of data users apart from the data engineers, because data engineers are privileged. They always have access and they have tools and they understand how to work with data. But other people may not be as deep into this topic at all, and most of the time they are not. So from my point of view, it's absolutely a very useful feature. We just need to make sure that we're using it completely correctly and we're considering each and every aspect of how it works and what it does, because I always say my simple explanation: hey, when you're working with the AI agent, treat it as a very junior person that cannot make any decisions on their own without proper instructions. Just cannot. Not adult. Not yet. Right? So give as many detailed instructions as you can to anticipate the correct response.
correct, thanks. And
Do we want to talk a little bit about the vouchers, or did you already
I will let you
wrote?
talk about it. I just only said the bonus in the slide, but I didn't because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't have the
Bring
full
up the slide.
details.
Do you have the
Uh,
slide?
Okay, but it's very little. But you mentioned, because I don't want to say what's not certain because I don't have access yet to that particular team's
All right.
channel.
All right.
But
So,
yeah.
but if you have a slide,
Okay, let me
then
bring it up. Since I have the slide, I will just put it up. But you do the talking so that you say what you know for certain is how we'll get it. So I'm putting up the slide. And yes, let me share my screen. Share window. Share that particular slide. Engineers in Toronto. I hope it's this one. Yeah, this. Let's see if that's the one that is being shared. Yes, okay. It's on the it's
right.
on
So in the
the
bottom right
bottom.
corner.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So what's going on, community members? Because this group now is official part of the Microsoft Fabric community network. We now have access to the exam vouchers for the DP600 and DP700 Microsoft exams. They're really free. And you know that if you just want to schedule an exam out of your pocket, it will cost you probably around $140 Canadian at this point for this exam. So this is real money, right? If so, how it works is that we need to collect from our group members. We need to collect responses, requests. Who is ready to take an exam because they already completed their training. They went through the entire Microsoft learning path for this one or another exams, and they completed all labs that are in the training using Microsoft Fabric trial capacity, right? So if you're ready to take this exam, you can request it from us, from Michael and from me, and we will distribute vouchers. We have a limited number of vouchers, so it's first come, first served. And also there is additional limitation on the vouchers. You need to take the exam in March if you request it now. So you only have until the end of the March to take that exam. Vouchers, they have time limitation on them. So that's the information about the thing.
You can. I'm typing the short version in the chat.
We'll have that announcement on LinkedIn and the group on the page everywhere. So just subscribe to our page, join our group, watch, subscribe to notifications on the meetup, because we will be providing this kind of information from now on a continuous basis. Like as soon as we receive similar offers from Microsoft, we'll be passing them down to you.
Okay, so I said reply to our announcement email/postings. But at least I made it clear that it's the DP600 exam vouchers, and they have to take
also
the exam.
DP700 is covered as well. No any other exams are covered. Like before, they had a campaign for that included DP900 as well. This time not. Only these two exams.
Okay, great. So thank you very much, and we've had a very lengthy session that I'm sure you are all energized to want to take it beyond. For me, I'm wanting to take it beyond what I have seen today. So thank you for joining us today, and this brings us to the close of today's session. We hope to see you towards the end of the month. I was just mentioning, Alex, that we now have a process of vetting even presenter, like having a short call with them before the session. So I'm going to try and do that for the person we have for the end of the month. And if all checks out well, then for sure it's going to be the way we've planned it. So hopefully you get to see our first lady presenter by the end of the month to the group members. But fingers crossed, let me try to do my own bits of proper structure so that we always get us a predictable experience, and also the presenters to see us as well organized. So thank you, everyone, and have a good week ahead. I will make sure I try to get the recordings out this week and, get you access to the recordings. Thank you very much. Thanks, Alex, for the session.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Bye, everyone.